862. I'm Sherry Brown. Now back to Ronn Owens on KGO 810.
Rather appropriate there. Ronn Owens on KGO Radio. Yesterday, the House passed a bill to halt the admission of any Syrian refugees into the United States until they undergo a more stringent vetting process. A lot of people opposed to that. I think it was the right thing to do. And interestingly enough, one of the Democrats, 47 as a matter of fact, who voted for that bill, U.S. Congressman John Garamendi. John, good morning.
Always good to talk to you, Ron.
Rather surprising in the minds of some that you would vote that way, but I think it's the right thing because how do you vet? How can you possibly vet and be sure?
Well, first of all, it always is useful to read the bill. And if somebody took the time to read the bill really requires just two things. One, that the agency heads responsible for the vetting, which already goes on. We already seriously vet all of these people. It's about an 18 to 24-month process before they can even set foot in the United States. So those agencies, the intelligence agency, the Homeland Security, and the FBI, the heads of those agencies have to certify to Congress that the individuals have been properly vetted and are safe to enter the United States. That's one thing that the bill does. The second thing that the bill does is to require that they report that to Congress. That's it. Nothing more than that. Doesn't change the vetting process at all, which is already underway, already involves those agencies, takes 18 to 24 months. And I'm going, well, what in the world are we fighting about here?
Yeah, no.
So I voted for the bill.
Look, I can understand that very well, but I got to ask that basic question again. Is there any way to vet people from Syria? I mean, realistically, they don't have any database. How do you vet them? You ask them whether they're in ISIS?
Well, yes, you do ask a whole series of questions. There's a psychological test. There's a healthcare test. There are 13 different steps that have to be taken, and they are in-depth interviews. There's the gathering of information. There's the fingerprinting. Other biometrics are all taken. All of that is done. It is not an easy process, so much so that since the last 4 years now, 2,100 Syrian refugees have been allowed into the United States, even though there are more than 2 million Syrian refugees in Jordan, Turkey, and now a whole lot of them in Europe. But only 2,100. It is a very, very tight process. It's already been underway. It has been underway for the last, I guess, for more than a decade, and for Syria, more than 5 years. So, this is not new. Now, the other part we need to understand, Ron, is that we are a country that must and should welcome refugees, and we do, from all over the world. And it's been standard procedure for years and years, as it should continue into the future, that we be an open country for refugees, a place of asylum. Think of the Statue of Liberty and the writing on the Statue of Liberty, all of which is an American ideal and goal, and we should maintain that. And we do.
All right, but with that in mind, I've got to ask the question that a lot of listeners have been asking, sure. And that is, okay, let's say we do accept these refugees. They come into the United States. Mm-hmm. Odds are they're not going to have jobs waiting for them. Therefore, it's going to cost us more money, schools, education, hospitalization, and the like. Now, if we have that kind of money, I mean, where's the money going to come from? And if we do have that kind of money, why not spend it on veterans or homeless people or people here in the United States?
Well, in fact, we do have programs for veterans, and we've significantly ramped up those programs, almost quadrupled them over the last decade. And, yes, we do have a continuing need for education, more money, more better education. All of those things are out there. But we're also a nation of compassion, and we don't want to lose that. And, by the way, all of these veterans wind up continuing to be supported in their community, in most cases, at least in part, by local charities, Catholic Church World Services, other organizations, World Vision, and others. All of these well-known, long-time existing humanitarian and often church or faith-based organizations do continue to provide the services to these individuals as they assimilate into our community. And in many cases, they do find jobs, they do work hard, and they do become part of our economy, part of our society, all to the betterment of this nation. And we don't want to stop that. Now, there are other things we need to be really, really concerned about. Of the terrorists that were killed and identified in the Paris attack, all of them were citizens of either France, or Belgium. They were citizens. They had passports. They could travel to the United States without a visa. Now, maybe we had information on them that they were part of the no-fly list. That's a possibility. But maybe we don't. The fact of the matter is that if you're going to come to the United States as a terrorist, you don't come as a refugee. First of all, it's going to take you a long time to get through the process. There's going to be very heavy vetting. You'd come as a tourist, or you'd come as a student, or maybe you can get a work visa. Those are the areas that are the most likely entry point. But even that is less likely than a homegrown terrorist. And here's where all of us, each and every one of us, have a specific responsibility to the safety of our family and our community. And that is, if you see something, say something. Mm-hmm. It's not that we're going to be spying on our neighbors, but there are clear indications in every community, including the various tragedies that we've had at our schools with the multiple killings that have taken place. There's been clear evidence prior to those horrific events that the individuals were troubled and engaged in some sort of activity that should have been passed on to the authorities for review. It may be a mental health issue or quite possibly a police issue. Say something, see something, say something.
Yeah, no, obvious. And that worked in England when they were dealing with the IRA. That's where it started, to the best of my recollection. But there's a new Bloomberg Politics national poll that came out and said Americans are very evenly divided over whether we ought to send troops to Iraq and Syria. 44% go for the idea, 45% against it. Hillary Clinton said if she were president, she would. How do you feel?
Well, I think her view, you didn't adequately state it. I don't know anybody among Hillary's or on myself that wants to re-engage as we did in Iraq. That is, with tens of thousands of American troops on the ground. It is the wrong thing to do. Yes, we have a very significant obligation to lead in the effort to deal with ISIS. Obviously, the bombing is a piece of that, the aerial activity, but there's more that needs to be done. The special operations are there. We need to support, and most important of all, we need to rally the allies in this effort. And it's certainly Turkey and Jordan and Saudi Arabia, the other countries, Iraq, the Kurds. They're the ones that are most at risk. They're the ones that have lost the most lives and will in the future. And they are the ones that have to have the boots on the ground. Now, Russia is going to play a very, very significant role in this. I know we don't like Russia. I know Putin is a terrible person. But I also know that they are now an ally in the effort to stamp out ISIS. And we're going to have to find allies. My enemy's enemy is my friend.
Yeah.
Well, temporarily perhaps, but this is what we have to put together, that coalition. And last night, 2 nights ago, when Secretary Clinton, Hillary, talked about this issue, she spoke very clearly about the need for this coalition. It's being built. The president's doing a good job in building that. We need to do more of it. The boots on the ground are going to have to principally come from the countries in that area. If it's all American or all European, it'll be seen as a recruiting tool. The West against Islam. We don't want that. We want Islam, the countries in the area, to step up and to protect themselves from ISIS. And they've got every reason in the world to do so because ISIS is out to get them.
John, thank you so much for the time. Appreciate it.
Certainly.
That's Congressman John Garamendi, who voted for the bill yesterday, one of 47 Democrats, I might add, which makes it a veto-proof bill if, in fact, and I wish I had more time with him, if, in fact, the people who voted for the bill and who were Democrats are not going to be influenced by presidential pressure to go back and vote the other way.